attacking another generation, whether you're punching up or down, like, well, we can attack boomers. That's fine. But they broke everything, okay?
Welcome to Millennial, the home of pretend adulting and real talk, canceling since 2015. The shirt I'm wearing today. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura. And I'm Pamela.
Did we all see South Park last week?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know it.
For, first time in a while, I really watched it, but that night, social media was just lit up with commentary about it. And I thought, Threads is just like way too focused on this right now. There's no way it's this good, but it was good. I'm sure everybody's heard about it.
And we know you have a certain threshold that things have to peak to on social media before you.
That's right. Girl, you know
so
me.
It hit the threshold for Mr. Andrew.
Yeah. Did you two love it as much as I did? It's so funny.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Woke is
I
dead.
loved it.
They squeezed so much in there
They
down
really
to like
did.
Trump suing South Park for more money.
Yeah.
Dude,
it was just
that was
spot on.
Fucking brilliant, because that was basically them saying, we know what you're going to do. So when you do it, you're going to look like even more of an asshole in the middle of all this Epstein stuff, where you are trying to sue your way into every possible distraction that you can to get yourself off the shit list. But I think that's difficult when, you might actually allegedly
be on it,
be on the Epstein list.
Just the fact that they chose not to animate his head like they have with past, famous people. They usually just, throw them into the style of the world. They were like, nope, we're just going to make sure you guys know there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Well, they made him into basically Saddam Hussein from the South Park movie, because it was the same thing. Saddam Hussein was having a love affair with Satan, and Satan was feeling undervalued and unloved by Saddam.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was a really good callback.
Oh man. So they made Trump into Saddam.
It spoke volumes about how much they hate Trump, that they're comparing him to Saddam Hussein and also putting him in bed with Satan.
Yeah.
New today, the day we're recording, South Park released a clip from episode 2, which doesn't come out till next week. I don't know why they're skipping a week, especially after how much attention last week's episode got. But in this preview, we see they are going to continue focusing on Trump and Satan in episode 2. I think a lot of us assume this might have been a one and done thing, but this might be going on all season.
Yeah. There's so many layers to this, because of course, South Park would, because it's South Park, right?
Yeah.
But B, we also have to remember that Paramount just spent over $1 billion to acquire the streaming rights for South Park. And they also are the same parent company that just canceled Colbert and claimed that was due to money issues, but that has also recently settled $16 million in court for the 60-minute interview that Trump sued them for. So there's a lot going on here, and it's not like Trump can sue South Park because they're not even a news organization, so you can't even cry defamation. It's satire, and satire is protected by the First Amendment, at least for now.
And to build on all that, they are directly responding to everything that had happened in the past week, because I don't know how many people know this. South Park turns around their episodes in a week, like SNL. Even though it's animated, they turn these around in a week. It's amazing. There's actually a documentary on this. I think it's called 6 Days to Air. Maybe it was on Netflix. I don't know. But they are directly responding to all the shit that's been going on with Donald Trump, and they're not holding back. Even the episode was titled Sermon on the Apostrophe Mount, which was a nod to Paramount. They shortened Paramount, Sermon on the Paramount. Jesus' Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah.
So many layers. You could spend 2 hours probably talking about this episode.
Yeah. And the thing is, they are so smart, I will say. And this is really the power of satire. It's really refreshing to see, especially when we're looking at an opposition party in the Democrats, if you could call them that right now. Like, there's no unified message.
Yeah.
So like, to see somebody actually understand how to hit this motherfucker where it hurts is brilliant. And I can't wait to see more.
To that point, I have to think Trump has actually not seen this episode. I know the White House issued a statement, but they must be working around the clock to ensure he hasn't seen the episode because he has an extremely small penis in it. First of all, you see his bare naked ass crawling through the desert at the end. When he watches something that is negative on him, he posts about it on Truth Social. There's no way he hasn't seen this unless he's so enraged by the visuals of his micro penis that he doesn't want to draw attention to it, which might be the smartest thing he's ever done. Do you guys think he's seen the episode? I just feel like he wouldn't be able to resist.
I feel like he has to have, and they're just telling him he can't comment, which is probably killing him because we all know he has a big problem with people talking about his small penis.
Exactly. I mean, he addressed it during that debate in like 2015. There's nothing wrong down there. It's all good, Jeb. The White House also was like, South Park's irrelevant. And I saw somebody quote tweet that. And they were like, if they're irrelevant, then why is the White House commenting on their show?
Well, if they're irrelevant, why do they just get paid out over $1 billion for streaming rights?
Mm-hmm.
And they're in their 27th season.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll see what happens during next week's episode when they hit Trump and Satan more. I also wanted to ask you too, did you see this T app, TEA, this app?
No,
Yes.
I didn't see that until you brought it up, actually.
There's this new app. It's been getting a lot of attention. I've seen talk about it on social media. It lets women post reviews of men that they date in order to help protect other women who might be considering dating these men. It's been sitting at the top of the App Store over the last few days. To put this in perspective, in terms of popularity, it's been beating out ChatGPT, which I think says a lot about the interest around this thing. And the app does include some very good safety tools, like the ability to run a background check on men, identify catfishing, verify that the people that you are thinking of dating aren't sex offenders. So that's all good stuff for sure. But this feature where you can talk about these men who you have dated to give other women a warning has been raising concerns, primarily amongst men. Of course, they don't want to be judged until they get a chance. All the women are also anonymous, which lets women talk more freely, I suppose. I actually tried to download the app, but you have to take a picture of yourself and then they have to figure out if you're a woman or not. And I haven't heard back. So I guess they're still deciding if I'm a woman or not.
Well, hey, if it makes you feel better, Andrew, they rejected me. So
No.
I guess I don't look like enough of a woman for them.
How?
They were
Seriously?
like, yeah, they were like, you can resubmit a photo and give us a link to your socials so we can verify.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh, is JK Rowling like running the gender determination process for T? But yeah, so don't take it too hard, Andrew. Apparently, I don't look like enough of a woman either.
Maybe they just kicked me into purgatory because I'm like definitely a man in my photo. So they're just like, I'm not even going to deny him because then he's just going to get mad and shit post about us on the app or talk about it on his podcast.
Hey, that's what I should do when I should reapply, but I should give them we should pull this as a social clip and I should give them a direct link to this moment.
We warned you we would talk about you on our podcast. You should take a picture of Mark, like reapply, but take a picture of Mark and see what happens.
Oh, wow. They're going to have a lot of questions about that because they'll be like, okay, first time you were this white girl and now
you're a black man. What happened in the span of a week? Well, thank you for trying. It's actually good that you weren't allowed in because there have been 2 major security breaches with this app already.
I heard about that.
And cybersecurity experts are saying they are doing a negligent job with data storage. They're not protecting user data at all. And I'm not talking about the men's data. I'm talking about the women's data. It's the women's data that's been leaking, the conversations happening in the app and whatnot. So my advice to all the ladies out there considering using this app, you probably should not because you're in for some trouble in terms of your information. But the idea of this app, what do you two think? Is this fair? I'm a man. I'm biased. I don't think this is fair for the men. Think of the men. Will somebody think of the men?
Well, the men are thinking of the men. So you guys are covered. I just think that it's like, this is a direct commentary on how bad it is out there for women. And I think that, I'm sure Laura has also been in situations where you feel unsafe, you get a bad vibe, whether on a date or not, or you get somebody creepy sliding into your DMs. The fact that we've reached a point where this is something that is like a necessary tool. Some people feel like it's a necessary tool. I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think that it's a slippery slope because, I mean, to your point, Andrew, it's not necessarily the only concern to have about this, but it is a concern. There's potential for anyone who can get verified on this app to say anything about anyone they want.
Yeah.
That feels really tricky because there's a big difference between just not meshing well with someone and dealing with someone who's genuinely problematic. And I think sometimes in this culture that we have on social media, people are really quick to bandwagon before verifying certain details. So I just see it also being an issue that way too. But I also think, to Pam's point, like, the fact that this exists speaks to the fact that there's a need that people like women aren't feeling comfortable. And I understand why. I did the online dating thing, and I used to flat out lie about the city that I lived in on first dates. So like I said that I lived in Alpharetta, Georgia. I did not. I would lie about that until I decided the person I was seeing wasn't a murderer. And like, that sounds kind of funny, but it's real. It's also like, I don't know who the fuck you are. And like,
right.
I don't want to make it easy for you to potentially hunt me down,
Yeah. And I think that, like, unfortunately, like, yes, you, like, as women, we have to paint with a broad stroke sometimes and just not automatically assume the worst, but your guard is still up. Even if you're, like, regardless of if you're dating or not. I know, like, what was it recently, Laura, you were talking about just like sitting, like having a meal at the bar alone and just talking to someone who was nice, like not trying to hit on you, but just chatty and stuff. It's like your first instinct is to lie because you don't know who that person really is. Like, are they showing you their true selves, or are they going to follow you to your hotel room? Like, unfortunately, that's just the rule, the world we live in. And, I think a lot of times, like, men take offense because they're like, oh, I'm just trying to be a nice guy. Like, why won't you just let me be a nice guy? It's like, because like there's so many men that use that excuse and then turn around and do awful things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe what's concerning some men is the name of the app, TEA. Like, you're going to spill the tea. This app can genuinely help people, and that's great in a dangerous dating world. But when you frame it as tea, I'm spilling the tea, maybe that starts to concern people. Like, okay, well, people are just going to go here to talk shit about me.
Like, this guy was bad in bed, and this is, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
Or like, this guy has a tiny micro penis, which you can see on the latest episode of South Park.
Right. Like, I mean, come on. I mean, stuff like that. So clearly the name of this app and the marketing around it has worked. Like I said, it's sitting at the top of the App Store. But that sets up a kind of expectation that you're going to go in here and anonymously talk crap on guys. Dude, like, cause let's be real. One of the example screenshots of the T app is like, this guy was so sweet, love him. Are people really going into this app and positively reviewing men?
I think there is something to be said for that too, because when you go online and you look at reviews for anything, you're going to see a lot more negative reviews than positive. And that's because people are more motivated to complain than they are to praise, especially online.
Yeah. Do you two try to leave positive reviews of like restaurants? I do, because I don't want to be that guy on Google who's only shit posting.
I don't really review
I don't leave
that
reviews
much.
at all. Yeah.
I kind of like it. Google Maps has a whole like point system. You get
my
points.
whole thing is like you have to sign up for an account, to leave reviews and stuff. And I'm just too lazy to do it.
I guess. I have 2,379 points on Google Maps. I'm a level 6
What
local
can you do
guide.
with those points?
What does that mean? I have no freaking clue. But I have
Okay,
a
I thought it was
star
gonna
next
give you
to
a
my name,
discount.
and Google tells me
Wow.
good job. I'm giving them
King
free.
of the castle.
Yeah, I'm working for them
Yeah.
for free. It's a great deal.
I don't know. Maybe this is also like another like woman experience, but I don't necessarily want to like publicize the places that I frequent. Does that make sense?
Okay, all right. But
Yeah.
on the other hand, don't you want to support small and local businesses? Like you want to give them a good review so other people go and try them?
I guess I think the workaround here is that we need the equivalent of like a Finsta, but for reviewing.
Yeah, that's true.
And then that way it's not
I'd do
tied to
that.
our names. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll commit to doing that.
You should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like sometimes I look up, like, I always have to put bad reviews or mediocre reviews into perspective. And sometimes I do that by looking up my favorite places to go and then saying that, you know, maybe they only have like 3 out of 5 stars. And it's like, well, that, you know, that's just somebody was being a dick.
Yeah.
Because these people are lovely.
Yeah.
And I go there all the time. So I get what you're saying.
I feel bad when a good local business gets attacked. And you know how people leave these reviews sometimes. They're very unfair sometimes. It's like, this isn't right.
I did want to ask Andrew a question before we wrap up here, because we talked a lot about women's safety, but, you know, like as a gay man, you date men too. So you're not immune, I guess, to shitty men. And I wanted to know if there were any safety features you wish existed for gay men on the dating apps back in the day when you were on those, or does it just not really cross your mind the same way it does for women?
Well, it is a safer world these days in terms of STD prevention, but I would probably say some sort of way to more easily verify if a person is HIV positive or negative.
Ooh, yeah, I could see that being important.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I know on I know at least on like Grindr and probably other hookup apps, you can put in when you were last tested, so that's nice. But if you're gonna go fuck some strangers, like I really need more information than when you last allegedly
was
tested.
this test too?
Yeah,
because don't you have to like check off
paperwork.
what you want to be tested for?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's first and foremost the concern. That'd probably be it. But then the same concerns as y'all have. And I mean, there's like we've heard stories over the years about how people who just hate LGBTQ plus people will go like on Grindr, pose as somebody else, invite them over to their house and kill them, or beat them
I
up
think
or something.
about that one date you went on. Well, not that guy was going to kill you, but he was like a gun carrier.
Yeah. That made me uncomfortable because what if I got on his bad side? What if he doesn't like my sexy time? He's going to shoot me and not in the way I want. Yeah, you in the gunplay, daddy? I wish him well. I hope he's well. Him and his gun, probably
and that's
guns.
why you're not going on T to give him a bad review.
Yeah, exactly. At least it's anonymous, though. All right, well, coming up in After Dark this week, speaking about safety, we're talking about Uber allowing women to only request women drivers, and we'll share our own Uber horror stories. After Dark is part of Mega Millennial, which gets you the show ad-free. And we have a little update about our Patreon. By signing up for an annual membership, you can now get 15% off the normal price, which equals about 2 months free. Previously, it was about 1 month free. So now you get 2 months free for committing to a year up front. And our annual membership is way more fun than paying for a year of, let's say, car insurance up front. So thanks to everybody who supports us at patreon.com/millennial. And we're going to talk about the Gen Z stare in a moment. But first, we're going to stare at our ad break. We'll be right back.
Gen Z really likes to punch up at us and make fun of us for our cringe, the millennial pause, our skinny jeans, our Harry Potter houses. Well, now the internet is coming after Gen Z for their stare. and what it actually says. The Gen Z stare is characterized by a sort of deadpan, zero expression look that seems to say to anyone on the opposite end of it, you're weird and I don't owe you a response. In defense of Gen Z, there are absolutely scenarios where that is an appropriate response, but this trend taking off on social media is revealing that some, especially millennials and those older, see it as rude, dismissive, unnecessary. And, those who are calling them out for this are basically saying, hey, if you are leaving your house, there is this social contract that we all we are all part of when we go out in society. So when you leave your house and you go shopping, out to eat, you go to your job, if your job is in customer service, it is incumbent on you to acknowledge the existence of other people, especially when they are talking to you, assuming they're not being rude. But at least from what I've seen, many of the Gen Z responses have been something akin to like, I don't owe anyone a social interaction. And granted, I don't think that's the entire generational response. I think that's just the people who are loudest on social media. But I thought that we could give a couple of examples. So I pulled an example of just like a Gen Z stare explanation to really give everyone a taste of what this is. And I also pulled an example of a Gen Zer's perspective.
I promise I'm not trying to jump on the Gen Z stare bandwagon, but I'm really glad we're talking about it because it's just very frustrating. Over the past several years, I have encountered more and more young people in customer-facing positions who just stare. They don't say anything. They don't greet. They don't answer any questions. They don't tell you what your total is. They just stare at you. And if you say something to them or ask them a question, they just stare at you. And I know that there are a lot of Gen Z videos rolling around on this app where they're saying that the stare is in response to the rest of us asking stupid fucking questions, but they act as though stupid fucking questions have not existed for the rest of us, for the millennials and the boomers and everybody who's ever worked in a customer service position since the beginning of time. Stupid questions is nothing new, but this type of behavior is. And it's really troubling and it's really frustrating. I was out yesterday and I stopped at a coffee shop that I'd never been to before, and they had some unique drinks. And there was one person ahead of me in line, and they were asking some questions about some of the ingredients in the drink. And the young woman behind the counter was just looking at her like she was an alien, just dead eyes, and the person asking, who was also, I believe, a Gen Z, this customer, was saying, hey, do you recommend drink A or drink B? And the young woman behind the counter was just like, I don't know, I guess just whatever you're into.
Maybe Gen Z is onto something here when like they just don't want to deal with somebody. They just stare blankly at them or into the void. Like maybe I should just start doing that when I want and like disassociate, basically. That's what they're doing, disassociating from the current moment. One of our listeners, actually, Sarah, who herself is a millennial, I'm pretty sure, said, I definitely used that stare working retail before I could come up with words for dumb customers.
And see, that's something where I disagree with the creator that we just listened to, where she's like, it's never been like this before. I'm like, no, it has. I mean, I definitely did this as a teenager. I did the sullen blank stare because I didn't want to deal with people being assholes, basically, or being rude. But I will say that, this creator goes on to say, but others have also shared some of their experiences having, what they say to be pleasant interactions where they're just like, they walk up to their barista and they say, hi, how are you? And the barista just stares back at them, no acknowledgement. Mm-hmm. And then they start to say, can I get up? But they're waiting for the barista to be like, what would you like to drink? And that never comes. So it seems like what people are kind of latching onto, at least on the the anti-Gen Z side of this argument, if you will, is that there's like the missing verbal interactions in conversation that are necessary to like propel a customer service interaction forward.
I've never experienced this out in the wild, but I feel like if this happened to me, particularly at anywhere where like a line forms, we would be at a stalemate because I'm one of those people that doesn't like to go up until they get called. I know some people just like crowd the register, but like you don't know if they're going to ask you to move registers if there's two, or like I'm just trying to make life easy for the person behind the counter, right? So I'm not going to go up there until they're ready, especially if they're doing something, because I know, like, having worked in retail and in food service, that like sometimes you just want a little bit of space while you finish something up. You don't want to feel flustered to like finish up fast because somebody's there like right in your face.
Totally.
You know? So I hang back and, you know, wait for them to say, oh, like they can take you here. So I would literally just be standing there and staring, and they would just be standing there and staring for Lord knows how long.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also just think it's really funny that like the excuse from like the loudest bunch is we don't owe you anything, when like in like a retail setting, you kind of do, because they're paying you to interact with customers. So like you literally owe everybody an interaction,
right?
Because that's part of what you're getting paid for.
Yeah,
so that logic doesn't make any sense to me.
That's one of the
you're contracted.
That's one of the good things about still shopping in a brick and mortar store, for example. You get that experience with the employees. You can interact with them, ask questions, stuff like that. Same thing if you go to a restaurant rather than ordering through DoorDash. Like, you are, to an extent, I think, whether you think about it much or not, paying for those interactions as part of your bill.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the Gen Z response.
As an older Gen Z, I just turned 24 a month ago. I think millennials and Gen X really need to chill out with the way that they talk about the Gen Z stare. Because honestly, all I see when you guys talk about this are grown adults who grew up in a pre-pandemic world and had normal social interaction in their teenage years. All I see is you guys bullying teenagers who are growing up in a much more difficult world than you did. And what I'm about to say next, I don't think people are ready to hear, but the Gen Z stare discourse and labeling people as lazy, stupid, incompetent, rude for being nonverbal or having poor social interaction skills or not understanding social interactions, not making eye contact, that is a slippery slope into ableist rhetoric. Before we had any of the knowledge that we did about neurodivergence, autistic people who were nonverbal and struggled to make eye contact were labeled as stupid, which is exactly what you guys are labeling Gen Z for, their lack of eye contact, their lack of social interaction, their lack of speaking.
So I think at least with us, we're leaving aside anyone who is neurodivergent. Like, I think that goes without saying.
I honestly really hate when that gets brought up as a catch-all excuse, because you know, like this person saying it's a slippery slope. Yeah, I guess it is, but it's also a slippery slope for you to insinuate that every single person that engages in this behavior is on the spectrum.
Right.
And should be given a pass.
Right. I think that's one of those like easy defenses somebody can put on TikTok to get attention. And there's a lot of people who be like, oh, agree, repost on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I've seen this in my own life, a couple of Gen Zers who I've definitely gotten the stare from. I didn't realize it was the Gen Z stare at the time because there wasn't much talk about it. But with one person in particular, I was talking to them and they just started staring at me. And I was like, is this thing on? Like, and there was just like this awkward silence. And I was about to finally fill it before they said something. And I think maybe if I'm being really generous, I can say, oh, Gen Z is trying to be more careful with their words. So they're really taking their time. I don't think that's what it is, though. I do agree with this Gen Zer who said, the pandemic impacted us. I could definitely see that being a major
100%.
factor. Yeah.
Yeah. I think
and
that's more believable. And then just the fear of like getting yelled at. Like I get that too. Somebody that genuinely has anxiety. I've been in retail situations where I'm scared, especially if you're newer, to like make a recommendation or anything like that. Because some people can be assholes if they don't like the thing. But you learn, like you can't just stay in that comfort bubble zone. Like you have to at some point grow out of that. Like, yes, it sucks. And we're all really sympathetic to the fact that you missed out on formative socialization years. But a lot of people who are late bloomers don't have those sorts of interactions anyway. And then they just figure out how to exist in the real world as adults where you're forced to have interaction. So like it's, I don't know. It's tough.
I wonder if maybe the pandemic, but also the fact that like this was the first generation who was raised with smart devices just immediately available to them. I think that makes a difference too. And I'm not trying to, back in my day, anybody right now, but I think there is something to that.
Yeah.
We're the only age group that has experienced both, right? And, or at least experienced both during our formative years.
So we know best.
Well, it's not even that we know best. I think it's just that we've seen both sides of it. And they haven't gotten to when all of your entertainment and socialization is coming from a device and not necessarily from people. That's not to say that every single Gen Zer had that experience, but I do think that technology, social media, and just the increasing availability of those things probably did have an impact, and that's not their fault.
Because think about receiving a message from somebody through the phone. And this is, again, what Gen Z was raised on. You don't immediately, you might, but you don't normally immediately respond. You can sit with the message, think about what you're going to say, and then reply a couple minutes, hours, whatever later. That's the type of social interacting that they were raised on. I also have this tweet that went super viral. I'm a recruiter, so I do a ton of phone interviews. And something I've noticed about Gen Z specifically is that a lot of them answer the phone and don't say anything. Like I can hear their breathing and the background noise, but they wait for you to say hello first. To your point about the internet age, they weren't raised on answering phones either. I remember when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure my parents taught me like phone manners. Like you say hello, who's calling, you introduce yourself. You say, my mom is not available. Can I take a message? Stuff like that. They didn't get any of those lessons either.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I will say that like not everybody does get taught that, because I remember when in high school, I took this this documentary filmmaking class, and before they set us off into the wild to set up interviews and things like that, we had this whole conversation in class about how to go about setting those up. And part of it was because most of it was going to be cold calling phone calls. And our teachers just got up there and said, okay, who wants to try? We're going to role play calling people you don't know and asking them for interviews. And I was never really one for participation, but they got 10 deep and the teachers were like, no, we're just going to stop you when you do things wrong. And nobody was getting it right. And so finally I was like, I know why. So I raised my hand and they're like, well, how would you do it? And I said, you say, hi, my name is Pamela. I'd like to speak to so-and-so. Do they have some time? It's not always inherently taught, but I do think for the most part, yes, if you're picking up the phone at home when we used to have landlines, most parents taught you to say hi, this such and such residence, this is so-and-so, so that people know that you're making the right phone call. But it kind of goes twofold, right? Some people know how to answer their phone. Some people don't know how to make phone calls. Even millennials don't really like to make phone calls anymore. I know sometimes friends that I haven't heard from in a while will call me out of the blue. And my first instinct is did you mean to call me or was it a butt dial?
I will admit sometimes when I get phone calls from certain people, especially anyone under the age of 40, I'm like, oh my God, someone's dead, because they would not be calling me right now.
Oh yeah. Like my brother
I hate
is so
when that
bad at, he
happens.
hates talking on the phone. So anytime he actually calls me, I'm like, what happened? I'll pick up so fast for any of my siblings because they don't like calling on the phone.
Yeah.
And my first instinct is something bad happened. They need help.
Yeah. And then you answer or you call them back and everything's fine. You're
They're
like,
like, just wanted to say hi. I miss
Yeah.
you.
Ew,
Like, well,
no.
that's nice.
text me first. Warn me that you're going to
I
call
know.
and everything's okay.
At least if I don't answer, yeah, text me right away and say everything's fine. I just wanted to say hey.
Yeah. Well, there is an extent to which some of this discourse is also turning into like Gen Z versus millennials, which, I mean, stop. It's dumb.
Yeah.
Attacking another generation, whether you're punching up or down, like, well, we can attack boomers. That's fine. But they broke everything, okay?
They deserve it.
Yeah. I mean, I know boomers who hate boomers. So, you know, there you have
Yeah.
it.
But
But-
the thing is, that I will say is that, like, I think Gen Z this is the first instance of them realizing they're reaching an age where the headlines are going to be more about them than they are about us. Because they've been saying we're irrelevant for a while, and now the media has finally decided that maybe we are. So I just feel like this is the tip of the iceberg. I overheard in passing this being teased on like the Good Morning America weekend edition last weekend. They were like, coming up, the Gen Z stare. I was like,
What's it
oh
mean?
my goodness.
More at 8 a.m.
I
Exactly.
really love that mainstream news shows are getting the same editorial content we do, which tells me
Well,
they're
they're
just
looking in all the same places. So we're
Right,
on the
exactly.
right track.
We're
And
onto
those shows talk about
something.
nothing important either. So I'm not surprised.
But some Gen Zers are kind of calling this like the anti-millennial cringe, and they tend to make fun of us for how we perform social niceties and friendliness. Like, if you think about like the stereotypical millennial as a Gen Zer might imagine them working in a coffee shop, they're going to be peppy and super friendly and conversational. And Gen Z, at least, you know, for the sake of this discussion, the rhetoric on TikTok is that they're saying, no, that takes energy. I don't want to do that. What do we think influenced Gen Z to move away from social niceties and friendliness like this? Is it just COVID?
Therapy. When therapy speak.
Oh, that's a really good
I
call,
really do
Pam.
believe it. Yeah. Because, and maybe not even just traditional therapy. I do think it's like online therapy and therapy speak, because you see a lot of this, like, I don't know you anything. Even like the whole let them rhetoric is very online mindset. But the problem is that online mindset does not always translate into the real world. And this is a good example.
Let them order a coffee and you can just stare back at them and not say anything. Let them.
But they're still going to want tips, right? So,
Yeah.
but for no interaction. So you got to play the game.
Yeah. That's why, we're going to be talking about Uber and After Dark. When I was an Uber driver for a hot minute, I knew that if I wanted to improve the chances of getting a tip or a good tip, I did have to be super friendly towards the person I was driving. I tried to feel out like how interested they were in having a conversation, but when they came in the car, I always spoke to them, always checked in with them quick. And then if they were talkative, I would continue talking, even though I didn't want to, but I was thinking about that money, baby. If they weren't talkative, then I was going to shut up. But it's all about it. Fake it till you make it, right? It's like, that's what is expected of you. You need to make the customer happy, however that's going to be. And typically when you're a barista or taking an order at In-N-Out or, scanning, checking someone out at Target, you got to be friendly. That's what people want. They want you to reply to them. Maybe we need a class in college on social skills, or in middle school or something. Like, that's something that's really not taught
I
either.
do honestly think that it's probably almost just as important as public speaking, and they make you take a public speaking class.
Yeah.
Like manners, like good manners and stuff like that. And even if you want to go back to, what the Gen Z perspective person was saying about, assuming that everybody's on the spectrum, then maybe that is what we need. We just assume everyone's on the spectrum and lack social skills. And so we teach everyone social skills.
Pam, I think you're onto something there.
I'm not being facetious.
No.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. Millennials got so much shit for hitting milestones later than other generations. Yeah. And it could be that there are just certain social development skills that are coming later for Gen Z as a result of what the world looked like when they were growing up in it. And that's not this is just me trying to be empathetic to them. I will say I don't think it's an excuse. Yes, every single generation has that shit. It's everyone goes through their rough shit. And I'm not playing tragedy Olympics with anyone here, because I do agree. Gen Z has grown up at a really difficult time, but I still don't think that's an excuse to be a dick. If I'm being real.
It's with any kind of mental health thing, right? We've talked about that before. It's the reason, but it doesn't necessarily mean that other people aren't going to dislike you for what your mental health had you say. And you don't get a full pass ever for it. So it is what it is.
Yeah. By contrast, I was reflecting on when the millennial pause was being emphasized so heavily by our Gen Z friends. And I don't remember anybody getting triggered or offended by that. I remember when I realized it was a thing, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And Pam, you actually reminded me why that exists. There's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's a technology quirk, basically, because we used to have to wait for the recording to start. If you look at the MacBook, the iMovie or whatever it was, QuickTime, it would count down to 3, but there was always an extra second that you would have to wait before it started
spin up
recording.
the hard drive before it started writing the video.
And it was the same with the phones and anything like that. You would give yourself a little space and then you would start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even with old school video cameras and stuff when we were really, really young, you did always have the pause. And so to us, at least for me, I was yeah, it's true. I will admit, I started, if I was ever recording something for social, I did start cutting out my millennial pause before I would send it to be posted, because I feel it does make it snappier. If you're able to get to the point more quickly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is what I was going to say. We can also ding millennials for just not getting with the times. So yes, we're all scrolling through TikTok and Instagram Reels and all that. This is the game right now. You start talking immediately as soon as the video starts. So if you're not evolving with this, that's on you. And Laura, I filmed a video for social earlier today. There was a little millennial pause at the start of it. I was like, I got to take this out, because what if our new social media manager accidentally leaves it in? It's got to start right away. But that's what the internet wants. You have 3 seconds to hook people at the start of a video. And if they're not engaged, that's it. They're moving on, and the algorithm is going to punish you. So if you're spending that first half second to a second Gen Z staring at the camera,
right,
it's not going to go anywhere.
And to that point, everybody has the opportunity to cut that out. So there's no reason why you should be leaving it in there, because you're seeing the final cut of your thing.
Right. I have a tool that automatically removes any silence over 0.3 seconds. And that way, the pace of the show moves quickly. And I think it makes a big difference, because then I go and look at it without the removal, the silence removals. And I'm like, damn, it's a little slow.
Yeah, it makes a difference. It adds up in the end. That might be the equivalent of 5 minutes shaved off the end.
Oh, I do look at the before and after to see how much time it takes out. It will take, if we're doing a 2-hour recording, it'll take out 4 to 5 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, and I think to myself, holy shit, that's 5 minutes of listeners hearing literally nothing.
When they tune into the live stream, poor them. No, I get it though, because sometimes we're Well, because we're so used to things lagging too. And honestly, that is still a real thing, that the millennial positive side, that's something that happens
there's no
on the
fixing
internet,
that.
no matter what.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why sometimes you hear us talk over each other, or like one of us starts and the other one keeps going, is probably because there's a lag. But every once in a while too, it's like we just want to think about what we want to say next, but they don't have to hear that in the final cut.
No.
So
No, exactly.
yeah, all that silence. That's what you get when you pledge on patreon.com.
Oh, what a sell. Actually, you get the stuff that we end up cutting. Last week or 2 weeks ago, Pam asked me to cut something out from the beginning.
I did. It was too personal.
And Pam was like, but it could be a live stream exclusive still. I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Anything for the show, as long as you pay us enough money.
There we go. That's it. If you want to know the real tea, just sign up. We've got that nifty 15% discount on annual plans now.
Yeah,
but anyway,
you'll have a whole year of brutal honesty in front of you if you pledge at that level.
Well, getting back to some brutal honesty about the Gen Z stare, psychologists have likened the stare to things like chronic overstimulation, depression and anxiety, and a rejection of perceived emotional labor. So I think a lot of that does go back to some of the themes we've been talking about, just with the availability of technology from, personal devices from very early ages in these kids' lives. Plus just so much of their socialization and stimulation happening there potentially. Plus all of this therapy speak. I mean, it really does feel like, especially on social media, and my God, I've definitely seen it because I've gotten interested in some of these fucking therapy speak videos because they hook you in with like a snappy one-liner and then you start paying attention to it and you're like, oh, this is basically just giving a very like vague definition of what a narcissist is so that the people watching this can say, oh yeah, that person that I don't get along with is a narcissist, or that person I have a complicated relationship with is a narcissist. Like, you really do have to be careful with the way you're consuming this stuff. And I think a lot of them have been subject to that. And of course, like, your fucking brain's not fully developed till you're 25. So I think they're going to be vulnerable to that kind of thing.
Yeah. But we forgive you, and we know you'll evolve and do better. We're giving you some notes. Your elders are giving you some notes on how to improve.
In thinking about sort of the shifting social trends and this conversation of whether or not Gen Zers owe it to other people to have these social interactions or give these social niceties, do we think that this is another cultural shift that everyone will eventually have to kind of shift to a common middle ground?
The goalposts will move over time to the point where we're like not talking to each other. Yeah, I guess so. But we've also seen studies, and we know for a fact that humans need social interaction. So maybe Gen Z tries to stare for a while, and maybe once you get older, you start to realize maybe you do enjoy that verbal communication that you were avoiding. But on the other hand, it is worrying that if you're raised in this way to maybe communicate verbally less, that could have lifelong impacts on how you socialize.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, I guess anything's possible. It's kind of like how, we probably grew up hearing, oh, if you get tattoos anywhere visible, you're never going to be able to find a job. Well, joke's on the boomers, because that tattoos are way more acceptable in most professions these days than they used to be. On the other hand, I think, honestly, like, the one thing that might propel this forward, and it would be at a detriment to service or retail workers, is just like the influx of self-checkout. But then that would make these positions obsolete. I'm not sure how much younger generations would appreciate that, because that would just mean less jobs for, usually retail, food service is by and large, those are jobs that you get like in high school, college. Some people stay in those positions their whole lives, and that's fine. But, we've heard a lot about how AI is taking jobs away. And yeah, I don't think that we want to reach a point where that becomes obsolete, but I don't know how this doesn't exacerbate that if like, a whole generation just refuses
Right.
to interact.
That's
so it's
the
a slippery
thing.
slope.
Yeah. I love that point, Pam, that like, if you are someone who is really worried about AI taking over and taking all the jobs, then, if you are also someone who doesn't want to participate in basic social interaction when you're in a public place, you might have to make some concessions.
Yeah.
If you're worried about that, but I did want to ask, do we think that society puts too much weight on facial expressions?
I don't think
know,
so.
But that's a good question. Yeah. Because some people just naturally have resting bitch face.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I think that society puts more of a weight on tone. And I know that has definitely gotten me in trouble before, where like you're just tired, and you don't mean to sound however it comes out to the person on the other side of that register, but it does.
No, I agree. And I also think too, I think sometimes like tone and facial expressions, those can also be things that are held against people for like gendered and racial reasons as well. So
there are a lot women are on all the time. They're told, you should smile more.
Yeah.
I guess what I would say is part of interacting with other people is you're going to have to put yourself out there a little bit. You're going to have to drum up energy to socialize with other people. This is something that I do struggle with, turning it on, going out into social settings. But I do it because it always pays off. When I'm in the moment, I'm having a good time. So I think this is just part of society.
Yeah.
Putting on that smile, putting on your dancing shoes, getting out there, and you're just going for it. That's life. Sometimes you don't want to do it, but you do. You just have to.
Yeah. Then that's I feel that. I think we kind of just talked about this. We were like a few shows back. We were talking about like how do we behave if we're like at the store checkout. I always try and be nice.
Yeah.
To the people. Like, I know it doesn't mean anything.
Nice,
it's a very like vapid conversation.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cost you anything. Just be like, oh, hey, how's it going? Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope you have a good, have a good day.
Right.
And you too.
And maybe by having that little interaction and maybe having a little jokeful moment, you're going to make their day with something you say, oh, I love your hair. I love your hair color.
Yeah.
There's
if anything, it's like you're one customer that made their life easier.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. I will say my mom and I actually had an experience. I just remembered this when we were coming back from visiting my grandparents a couple of weeks ago. We whipped through a Burger King to grab lunch while we were on the road because that's one of the only places where I can get fast food nowadays because they have the Impossible Whopper. Mm-hmm. So we went through there to get the food, and it was just taking them a little while to get things done, but we weren't like super concerned about it. We were just chatting. And when we went to pay, we were just kind to the lady at the cash register. Like we were just like, hey, how are you? Have a great day. Like it wasn't anything crazy. And then we got to the front window where they were handing out our food, and the lady at the front window thanked us for being so nice.
Aww.
And we didn't do anything.
You were nice.
I know, but what I'm saying is the fact that us pulling up saying, hey, how are ya? Thank you so much. Have a great day. And not being bitchy because it took a few minutes for them to finish our food. The fact that they felt compelled to be like, thank you for being so nice is a terrible statement about the way that people are treating those employees.
Yeah, like how shitty must have everyone else that went before you have been for them to be like, oh, thank you so much for being so nice. Because literally, they can't say anything back. That's the whole thing. Like when I was working, the one nice thing about working craft coffee is like usually like you have regulars that come in. So like you can't say something, but we definitely had regulars that would be like, hey, like be nicer to them because they're just doing their jobs. And it's always like, oh, thank you, because we can't say anything.
I do always appreciate
if somebody else is shaming you, it's like that makes you look even worse.
I do always appreciate when a waiter or a worker at, let's say, Burger King says thank you for your patience when it has been slow.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, okay, at least they're
Yeah.
aware that things seem to be moving slow. I'm glad it's not just me who feels this way. That goes a long way. But yeah, Laura, that's how low the bar is, that, you know, they don't even get the smallest amount of kindness. But you did tell me after that Burger King experience that you went on Google Maps and left a 1-star review. So
yeah,
you're
it was like,
passive aggressive
"Fuck
in the
this
moment.
place."
Yeah.
Yep.
Worst
You
Burger
got it.
King ever.
Just kidding. They were so nice. The girl at the drive-through, my mom's dog was with us, and she like offered to like smuggle us out some extra fries for the dog.
Oh my God, how cute.
We were like, oh, we'll take the extra fries, but we were like, we're not going to feed them to the dog. Not a bunch.
No.
Like,
But that's very cute.
Yeah,
that they
it
were
was
like,
very
let me give the
sweet.
dog something.
Yeah.
That's really sweet.
Oh, I guess our closing message is try to say something, please.
yeah.
Don't stare.
Yeah, I would say just be open to
Be
the
kind.
fact that you're going to grow and you're going to get better at this. And
Yeah.
it's okay if it feels awkward or uncomfortable, you'll get better at it. But like, it's also good to be self-aware and not double down.
The closing message here, I think, is just a little bit of kindness goes a long way.
Yeah,
so
it really
reduce the
does.
stare, be nicer to people in the fast food line. Just go that little extra mile, and that actually goes the longest way for people. Well, listeners, this show is brought to you by listeners like you. Thanks to recent patrons, including Hansika, Akshitha, Jill, Gabriel, and Kiana. Visit patreon.com/millennial to support us for as little as $5 a month, and you can get instant access to perks like After Dark. This week, like I said, we're talking Uber allowing women to only request other women drivers, and we'll share our own Uber horror stories. You can also get access to Ad-Free Millennial, our live streams where we are totally uncensored, and so much more. And by the way, when you become a pal, you'll be able to listen to all of our bonus audio content right within your favorite podcast app.
Visit patreon.com/millennial and get started today with a 7-day free trial to check out all of our bonus content, including After Dark. And if you sign up for an annual subscription, you will now get 15% off your membership, which equals 2 months free.
Other ways to support us include visiting shop.millennialshow.com, which is where you can pick up official show gear. You can tell a fellow millennial about the show, and also make sure you're following us on your favorite podcast app.
If you have any feedback about today's episode, you can email millennialshow@gmail.com or use the contact form on millennialshow.com. You can also leave a comment on Spotify or YouTube or DM us on social, especially you Gen Zers. Come for us, please. I know we're obsessed with you, right? We can't stop talking about you. What do you think? What do you think about that? And if you enjoy this indie podcast, we'd appreciate a review in your favorite podcast app. I am about to leave a review of Donkey Kong Bananza. This is a new game for the Nintendo Switch 2. This is the first very good reason to buy the Nintendo Switch 2, the first of hopefully years of many good reasons. It's by the same studio that made Super Mario Odyssey for Nintendo Switch 1. It really does feel like a follow-up to that game, but instead it stars Donkey Kong and another Mario World character named Pauline, but she's a little girl in this game.
Aww.
And she rides on Donkey Kong's shoulder, and she has singing aspirations, and she uses the power of her voice to make stuff happen in the game. It's really cute. For anybody who played Banjo-Kazooie, you're going to get a lot of Banjo-Kazooie vibes from this, like Kazooie riding on Banjo's back, Pauline riding on Donkey Kong's back. This game is so satisfying. Basically, you're just breaking shit everywhere and collecting gold and discovering secrets and these giant shiny bananas. And it's kind of like an open world RPG. It's just so much fun. If you've been on the fence about a Nintendo Switch 2, this is the reason to buy it.
Yeah, I've seen some Let's Plays of that, and it does look really, really fun. I want to recommend a movie. No surprise, it's a Marvel movie. I want to recommend Fantastic Four: First Steps. I saw this over the weekend, and it was pretty good. I really liked it because it felt like a fresh take on a Marvel story, and also it was the introduction of the Fantastic Four into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it was really nice to see a different take on that universe. It starts out in a different universe than the one that we all recognize, and it also takes place in like the 60s. So just from like the vintage aesthetic, it's a feast to look at, but the story was really good, and I felt like they actually developed all 4 of the Fantastic Four, and they didn't just hyper focus on Reed Richards and really only tell his story. A lot of it was actually, I think, Sue Storm's story, which I really, really appreciated. I actually want to see it again. It was very good.
I saw it too. Also really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll say quickly, I'm bracing for getting sick because somebody sits down right next to me right before the movie starts. This guy sniffling and coughing literally every 10 seconds, the whole damn movie. His wife or whatever next to him at one point whispers to the guy, do you want something? I guess she was offering a cough drop or something. And I hear him go, oh no, nothing will fix this. And I'm like, what, do you have COVID or something? What's with all this freaking sniffling and nothing will fix it?
Dude, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
No.
So, here it comes.
Yeah. I also saw this too, and I thought it was great to Laura's point. Also, I will say, definitely stay for the mid.
Yeah.
But not the after.
Scene, but not the after.
You.
You could leave after the mid credit. Yeah.
So pointless.
But the mid credit was one of the best mid credit after scenes I've seen in a really long time.
Yeah.
So stay for that.
Yeah. I will say there are a lot of Easter eggs in the after credit scene, but to that point, like, it wasn't very exciting.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Even
you would
Pat
need
went,
to be
"That's
like
it?"
a Marvel expert, I think, to catch on, because it went over my head, but I'm sure it was a feast for like somebody like Mark.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Well, I wanted to recommend Building the Band on Netflix. It's a music competition reality show. So if you're into stuff like that, this is a really fun, easy binge for the summertime. It kind of has a feel of The Voice in the sense that everybody that does audition, like the other contestants can't see them. And the gimmick is that they're all tasked with trying to build a band sight unseen. So they leave the decision of who's in every band to the other contestants, and the other contestants have to connect together to form a band of at least 3 people. And it's hosted by A.G. McLean of the Backstreet Boys. And then you have people like Kelly Rowland of Destiny's Child and Nicole Scherzinger of Pussycat Dolls on the panel as well. I was actually really pleasantly surprised by a couple of the acts that formed as a result of this. So I'm really curious to see if they find any success. But just thinking about how there is kind of like this void in music for groups in general, you're seeing kind of more solo artists and stuff like that. I think it's going to be really interesting to see what some of these groups that are getting some really decent trajectory on social media as a result of forming on this show, like where they kind of take those platforms and how they use them to potentially launch their career. So yeah, it was a really fun binge. And like I said, if you're into music competition series, I think you'll like this a lot.
Cool. Thanks, everybody, for listening. After Dark starts in a moment for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. I'm looking at some of the Uber horror stories we received, and oh my goodness, people suck. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
Beep, beep. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.